Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
We just got done watching the Monday Night Football showdown between the two teams that played in the Super Bowl last year. The Kansas City Chiefs playing the Philadelphia Eagles in Arrowhead, and the Philadelphia Eagles were able to come out of this game victorious 21-17. Let's go ahead and get our initial thoughts. First things first.
I mean, I think at this point, it's just really, I don't even think it's an elephant in the room anymore. It's just about the Chiefs' offense. I mean, I think they're averaging about 5 points in the second half, which is just by far the lowest in the league. They haven't scored in the second half of games since late October 22nd or something like that. They've just been struggling in the second half of games, and it's just a representation of the lack of personnel. And I think overall the lack of discipline on the offense. Last year, even we had, maybe some initial doubts about how the Chiefs offense, would look. And then they went out and won a Super Bowl, putting all those doubts away. And then now coming into this year, we told ourselves for about 3 weeks, it's just the Chiefs, they'll figure it out. And then, 6 weeks in, we still held on to that little hope. We still had some doubts growing. And then a couple weeks back, again, we see some glimpses about, what's going on with this Chiefs offense. Even in that Miami game, really it was their defense that kind of, carried things for them. But again, we put all that aside today. And then you come into this matchup against a Super Bowl contender in the Philadelphia Eagles, and, you're unable to score in the second half. The first half, your defense is absolutely phenomenal. Jalen Hurts got sacked as much as he had completions. Like, he was struggling because of that Chiefs pressure. They're all over him. And even in that third quarter, at times when they're looking at it, like the Eagles weren't able to really scheme up anything. They were getting swarmed. The defense was everywhere. They were forced to being called conservative calls. And then, next thing you know, the Eagles started leaning into the run a little bit more, and they started settling down. The Chiefs offense, when they would get the ball back, they stalled out multiple times. And then you had the 7 drops from the wide receivers. You had an uncharacteristic drop from Travis Kelce. You had Justin Watson drop some. You had MVS with basically the drop of the game, the biggest play of the game, and he dropped it. Mahomes couldn't have put it any better. And so this Chiefs offense is just really, really just worrisome at this point, and it's crazy because all these years they haven't had a defense like this, a phenomenal defense that's playing lights out. And this offense has just been unable to find its footing. I know a lot of people had Mahomes, for the MVP, but it's just like the level of play for him and for this offense just hasn't been there. Now, I'm not going to put all that blame on Mahomes because, a lot of these wide receivers, they're just not fitting the system right now. They're just not, doing their job. And so I have really big doubts about this Chiefs offense, and it doesn't look like it's going to improve anymore from this point on. Travis Kelce, I don't have big doubts about him. I have understood that there has been inconsistency with him, but I feel like that's just more so on the offense in general. But with the wide receivers, that's just their talent level. They're just not built to play for this team. I don't think they're good enough. You have Kadarius Toney, you have Sky Moore, you have Justin Watson. You have a nice piece in Rashee Rice, but I just feel like this offense just isn't suited towards this. So I have doubts about them. But the Eagles offense, first half, I wasn't a fan of the play calling. It was just mad conservative. I feel like everything was just a screen. It was just underneath. It was playing super conservative, super passive. They started running to their run game in the second half. Jalen Hurts had that monster completion to Devontae Smith, and then they got the red zone touchdown, tush push. The offense could have been better, but they can't complain. They shut out the Chiefs in the They basically shut out the Chiefs in the second half. They did exactly what they needed to do. So it's only improvement from here.
I'd be broken down, plain and simple. I'm gonna give y'all. He gave y'all the definition of it, what the receivers are, and everything. I'm gonna just give you a 3-letter word. They're ass. That's it. Hey, we know they're ass, from Toney to MVS to Watson to Rashee Rice. We've seen a little bit from him. I think he has like 6 or 7 catches, but it's not much. He hasn't been on the field much. But other than that, the only real true offensive threat or catching threat is Travis Kelce, and he gets blanketed. He's getting double teamed, and they're letting other receivers kind of get open, like daring them one-on-one coverages, saying, "Hey, you can do that. We're not worried about you. We're going to take your best target out the game." And it's been tough, with the drops too. Like, these receivers are open and they're just dropping the ball. It's not like it's a tough catch that they have to make, or it's a back shoulder catch with the cornerback on them, pushing them out of bounds. This is wide open passes that they're dropping. It's embarrassing to me. It's embarrassing to the league. It's embarrassing to their team. It's embarrassing to watch. I mean, there's so many opportunities that they could score the ball, and it doesn't happen. And then to speak about this game, first half they started off so well. 17-7, offense was going down. They were finding their targets. They found Kelsey for a touchdown. Mahomes is marching down, and it's all good and well. Second half, it's completely off the skates, man. They couldn't muster any type of offense until that drive where they found where Kelsey was in the end zone, or he fumbled. And then other than that, that MVS drop was just horrible, man. Wide open. There's another guy that been on this team for a while, has connection with Mahomes. He had his opportunity to shine, to end the game, and to make a big play, and he didn't. And for me, it's, this defense for the Chiefs have been one of the best defenses in the league. I think they only muster up, 16 points per game to opposing teams, and they were playing they're playing pretty great first half. Second half, it was kind of a different case. Eagles got kind of back into their offense. They kind of got what what they do, run the ball. They fed Swift the ball, and then Devontae Smith had a big game. He had a big catch that took him to the 1-yard line, and you got the tush push. So, offensively, Chiefs, they've been struggling. We talked about this in the past, and we said that we're going to give them a chance to, see if they can, get that consistency, see if they can work together and, find a solid ground, but they still haven't, and it's tough for them. So, I expect down the road, into the playoffs against these competitive teams like, the Dolphins come offensively, and, they're going to have to see Lamar Jackson, and then in the AFC, it's going to be tough if you can't muster, points against these top defenses as well. So we'll see what happens, but, good second half by the Eagles. Question about Jalen Hurts' knee. He kind of looks suspect. I know he had a 10-yard touchdown run. I know he had the tush push touchdown, but him standing in the pocket, trying to evade the pass rushers and everything didn't look too well for me. So, I do want to see what happens with that knee injury in the future, but good one for the Eagles.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm surprised. Surprise is the one thing I'm not coming out of this Monday Night Football matchup. 4 weeks ago, when this team matched up against the Denver Broncos on Thursday night, I believe, we watched that game. We saw what the Kansas City Chiefs offense did that game. Luckily, they were able to win 19-8 against a Broncos team that wasn't good back then. And here we are 4 weeks later, and even though they have a 3-1 record in that stretch, it's been some very tough outings for the offense for this Kansas City Chiefs team. We saw them go up against the Miami Dolphins, and they struggled with them as well. We saw them struggle tonight, and this is something that I've been saying since the beginning of the season. Like, this Kansas City Chiefs offense is going to be a very, very big issue moving forward throughout the rest of the season. Like, Patrick Mahomes is great. Like, let me go ahead and get that out of the way. Like, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in this league. I don't necessarily have an issue with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, when those two guys aren't playing catch like father and son, like I mentioned, there's going to be a lot of problems trying for these receivers to get the ball and make some big plays. Like, they're missing a big play guy. Even though they won the Super Bowl last year, they had some guys that were able to extend drives. The Jujus, and even though they did bring back McCall Hardman, it's not really to the same level of play that he was putting up last year. So it's just like this Chiefs offense isn't necessarily as good. And when you look at the AFC as a whole, you can't necessarily get by with an offense like this. And I know their defense has been elite all season. That's been their highlight point from week 1 of the NFL season. Like, their defense has been elite. Nobody has ever questioned that so far. It's been the best it's ever been during this Chiefs dynasty run that they've been on. But their offense is a major concern to me. And I was trying to raise red flags, and we kept pushing it off. And I think now we've just reached a tipping point where we can no longer push it off, and we can understand that Mahomes is great. But at the same time, we can also acknowledge that this offense isn't a Super Bowl level offense. They don't have the playmakers enough to compete with these top teams. They can get by when they play a lot of these low level teams, but when they play the top dogs like tonight, like they play the Philadelphia Eagles, they're gonna have a hard time, trying to move the chains and move the ball down the field. And that first half and that second half was like night and day. And I feel like the only reason why the Kansas City Chiefs were able to be successful in that first half was just due to the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles were a little bit confused coming out of the gate. The Kansas City Chiefs go down and they score a touchdown, and the defense isn't really the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Their passing defense hasn't been great this year. And then the Eagles respond with a DeAndre Swift touchdown. And, things are starting to look to go back and forth between these two teams, but then the Chiefs simply pull away because the defense is stepping up. They're getting to Jalen Hurts. They're really, blitzing him 24/7, knowing that he has a knee injury. He's not really going to utilize his legs a lot a lot in comparison to what he used to do. But it was just really all on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are shooting themselves in the foot. Next thing you know, I tune into the second half of this game, and it's like I said, it's night and day. The Philadelphia Eagles went back to what their bread and butter is, and that's running the football, and that's what they're good at. And going back to that drive where they scored, DeAndre Swift was the guy that opened up the game for him, because you can run on this Chiefs defense. Even though this Chiefs defense has been elite, that's their one problem. They just cannot defend the run. And I thought that was the game plan coming into tonight, and it looked like it in that first half. In the second half, and then and towards the end of that first half, ever since that drive, they just pretty much stalled themselves out. And so they got back to what they know best with that offensive line, and DeAndre said moving the chains. And after that, the offense opened up. They're able to make some very big plays down the stretch. And I got to give a lot of credit to this Philadelphia Eagles defense, though. Even though their passing defense hasn't been great, like I mentioned, in the second half, they're able to contain this Chiefs offense and limit the Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce connection. And even though the Chiefs had one good drive in that second half where Travis Kelce fumbled, outside of that, the Philadelphia Eagles defense in that second half, they were phenomenal. So they pretty much did their job. And then now I look at it, we look at the standings now for the AFC. The Kansas City Chiefs have now lost home field advantage, I believe, to the Baltimore Ravens. And then when you look at it as a whole, there's a lot of teams that are right there with them. Now they're 7-3. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars that are 7-3. You have the Miami Dolphins that are 7-3, and you have the Cleveland Browns that are 7-3. Even though we know the Cleveland Browns will probably not compete for that number 1 seed, there's still a lot of teams that are competing right there with the Kansas City Chiefs. You have Jacksonville and you have Miami, who are right there, and those two teams are red hot right now. So, for the Kansas City Chiefs, man, I like I said, I think it's time to worry about this team. I think it's time to worry about this offense. We can give Mahomes all the flowers in the world, but at the end of the day, he's got to go out there with the guys that he's got, and he's not going to be able to do much with the weapons that are provided for him. Because Travis Kelce is going to be great. He's going to do his thing, even though he's been a little bit inconsistent. But every other guy outside of that, besides Travis Kelce, I can't necessarily trust with my whole heart. So it's a very, very big one for the Philadelphia Eagles. They needed this one. This is a revenge game for them, after losing to this team in the Super Bowl. And this is a lot of tough games coming up on their schedule. I know they still have Dallas next month. They also have Buffalo next week. And so you got to be able to win these tough games in tough fashions. Sometimes things may not go your way. I know the weather was a big issue in tonight's game with the rain coming down. But at the end of the day, I got to give credit to Philadelphia. They were able to come out of this game with the win. But aside from all of that, let's go ahead and move on to another.
Hold on, one thing though. When me and Abdi were preaching about having, an elite receiver core and not having Deshaun Jackson at his, year 22 as your receiver, and Lamar Jackson not having the talent around him, you see how it's tough for Mahomes. You see how tough it is.
I still think Lamar Jackson is kind of in that same situation.
With even a better play caller, by the way.
I'm just saying, it's just the receiver core situation is just like, both are ass, but you see how tough it is when you don't got that type of talent around you. And you got to carry the team, you got to will the team by yourself, and then you get blamed for it. You get blamed for losing.
We're low key, even though the Chiefs, I mean, against a good team, they're not really doing much, but they're still getting wins though. They're still getting by. Lamar's not getting by.
No, Lamar was getting by. I don't know what you're talking about. Lamar was getting by.
Lamar's not getting by.
MVP year he was getting by. The year he
had a phenomenal year. That's like the 1 year.
Both years before he got hurt, they were 8-3, saying comfortable. I'm just saying, receiver talent it adds a lot to it, and we see Mahomes.
How much better is Lamar Jackson's receiving talent now in comparison to years prior?
A lot better.
Is it drastically better? They drafted Zay Flowers.
I think drastically better.
I think it's
Rashad Bateman hasn't necessarily panned out to be anything
Rashad
great.
Bateman, but I think Zay Flowers is the addition of him and just somewhat
before
OBJ,
injury, Mark Andrews as well, and then OBJ recently. I think he's finally.
This year, I feel like Lamar Jackson.
On top of that, the play calling has been really good.
His passing efficiency this year is much better.
If anything, it's really just been the play calling that's been a huge change for this Ravens team. They're really just letting Lamar do. They're utilizing Lamar to his strengths. They're not necessarily limiting him with his arm talent. And even though the weapons aren't necessarily the greatest, Lamar Jackson is able to make it work with what he's got. And so, it's kind of similar. You do make a fair point. With the Kansas City Chiefs, even though they're struggling against good teams, Lamar Jackson wasn't getting that nice excuse. But I'm not going to sit here and give Patrick Mahomes an excuse either. It's tough. It's tough for him now. But at the end of the day, we'll see where they end up going from here.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now late, now that's overkill.